G'day guys and gal, Warhammer 40k is jam-packed with mad genius scientists, all having a galactic dick measuring contest. Whether it be Warsmith Honsu creating a giant living space marine breeder called the Homuncular, Trazin the Infinite using a shard of his own god to power his museum, or Urian Rakarth, who made himself immortal with science but now has gotten so bored that he seeks ways to kill himself for entertainment. There are quite a few smart cookies in there, just always outdoing each other. Above all this rabble, however, stands Belisarius, Cawl and Fabius Bile, two of the galaxy's greatest geniuses whose intelligence and ambition is only outweighed by the Emperor of Mankind himself. But who is actually smarter? Who has achieved more complicated, impactful things? Who deserves the mantle of the galaxy's smartest man? After all, the Emperor doesn't really count right now due to his poor physical and mental condition. Speaking of geniuses, before we get started, straight up, going to university or college is overrated in my opinion. You spend a ton of money just to get a degree that you probably don't actually want and you'll never use. I never did further education after high school and I'm doing better than all my mates who've just finished busting their balls for 5 years to get a degree. But in saying that, I wish I had a learning tool to use so I didn't have to stumble through my self-education. I wish I had Skillshare, who were kind enough to sponsor today's video. Skillshare is a wildly affordable learning platform where you're able to follow professionally formulated and most importantly, practical courses about whatever you want. I use a camera for my videos, but it was only after doing the Skillshare course on camera basics that I began to actually know what I was doing. If you watch my older videos, they are often out of focus, poorly lit, and shockingly color graded. It was Skillshare that taught me how to fix these issues, to give you this nice aesthetic cinematic style. So to learn a new skill, improve a current one, or just explore, then use my link below. The first 1,000 people to join up will get their first month free. This is awesome as you can hop on, do a course, see if it's right for you, and if yes, then dope, and if no, then you can just cancel at no cost. Cheers to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Today we'll go over the achievements of Fabius Bile and Belisarius Cawl, comparing and contrasting their successes and failures to determine who is the greater genius. This video will be more like a highlight reel of both characters rather than just a standard retelling of the lore. Let's get into it. Both men were already a league above their peers, already built different. Fabius was one of the original Emperor's children and was affected by a cancerous blight that was slowly killing most of the Legion. He dedicated his life to attempting to cure the blight, but eventually the order was given to cull all Emperor's children with the disease. Fabius had the disease. Now 99.9999% of Astartes during this time period would have accepted their fate. Fabius, however, swapped his test results with that of a fellow healthy Astartes, letting an innocent healthy man die in his place. Fabius believed that his genius and work was too important to be cut short by something as trivial as terminal cancer, and he continued to work on finding a cure to the blight, gaslighting even his own Primarch Fulgrim into believing the blight could one day return, so Fabius would be allowed to continue researching a cure. Even at this early stage, Fabius had zero regards for ethics or morals in his quest to pursue knowledge. Belisarius Cawl, on the other hand, was one of the countless trillions vat-born on Mars at a similar time to the rise of Fabius, making them roughly the same age, although with Fabius living in the Eye of Terror, it's more likely Cawl is significantly older. As he was being processed to determine his purpose, he found himself to be the only one of his peers who displayed critical thinking and sass during the process, an attitude which made him a 1 in a million candidate to become a tech priest. Now there are a shitload of tech priests though, so that doesn't make him particularly special. No, his true genius and subsequent schizophrenic personality was a result of him using a device to absorb and dominate the consciousnesses of others into himself, using a secret rare technology called soul merging. At the same time, Cawl would perform illegal procedures on his own brain to increase his capacity for intelligence. Now, soul merging is very risky, as if the will of the person you absorb is greater than your own, they will dominate you instead. However, Cawl has never had an issue with his willpower. When his own master and mentor betrayed the Emperor and joined Horus, Cawl resisted, feigned allegiance to the corrupted Warmaster, and when the time was right, killed his traitorous mentor. As his soul merged with more and more geniuses, not because he was malicious, but because they were total dickheads, he received a vision from the Emperor via a flashback memory of someone he absorbed who had spoken to the Emperor. The Emperor knew Cawl would eventually absorb them due to his foresight, so it was very much like that scene from Assassin's Creed.
The rest is up to you, Desmond.
What?
Who is Desmond?
The Emperor told Cawl that he was his scientific successor and that he must continue the Emperor's work, no matter how heretical he might feel doing so. So we have a ruthless scientist with no ethics holding him back, as well as a strong-willed, multi-consciousness being who was handpicked by the Emperor as the best scientist in the Imperium. Sparks are flying in this heated battle. Let's look at their specialties and achievements to try see which smart boy claps the other. Fabius is a master apothecary, knowing almost everything there is to know about existing gene seed, space marine autonomy and the like. However, it's his advanced cloning abilities which set him apart. To overcome the blight, he figured out how to reverse engineer Eldar Spiritstone and Wraithbone technology in order to transfer his consciousness between bodies. So basically, when the blight starts killing him properly, he will simply clone a younger, healthier version of himself, which does still come with the blight, and then transfer his consciousness over, allowing his old body to rot and giving himself another few decades of health and vigor before he needs to do it again. A number of his clones are actually running around and doing his bidding, acting as distractions or agents of the main Fabius. He can even have teams of himself researching, then he can merge their knowledge back into himself, dramatically enhancing his rate of knowledge gain. As his brain is that of an Astartes, hence very advanced, he can handle the massive influx of new information without going insane. I mean, he already is pretty fucking crazy, but you know what I mean. Fabius has even managed to create a new advanced race of humanity, called the New Men, who are smarter and stronger than baseline humans with the ability to reproduce. They are basically better than mankind in every single way, with Fabius's ultimate goal being to one day replace the flawed and weak mankind with his own creation. The lore hints towards the New Men being corrupted in the core, with their own flaws, but as far as I've read, they seem pretty solid. Fabius has been seeding his new men on Imperial worlds, hoping to spread their genes much like gene stealers do, except a bit less rapey and apocalyptic. The Inquisition hunts down the new men with maximum ruthlessness in the hope that they can prevent mankind from being tainted by the new men genes, although once again hard to know if the genes of the new men are inherently evil or not. Above this though, Fabius's magnum opus, his greatest achievement, was the creation of the perfect clone of Primarch Fulgrim. Fabius had cloned Primarchs numerous times, Ferrus and Horus for example, but he could never clone their soul, meaning the Primarchs he created were these flawed cheap copies, devoid of destiny and easy to kill. However, when he cloned his own Primarch, he managed to also clone the soul, meaning he had a 100% authentic Primarch Destiny-fueled perfect clone of Fulgrim. Now I do have my own theory as to why this Fulgrim clone came out so well, but it's convoluted and has its own video, so if you want to know then watch it. But even Fabius didn't know how he managed to pull it off, just that he did. Eventually he would throw his perfect clone of Fulgrim in a Xeno jail, but that doesn't take away from the achievement. Overall, Fabius's genius with cloning, his reverse engineering of Eldar tech, and complete lack of ethical barriers makes him the smartest scientist on Chaos's roster. Belisarius Cawl does share a few similarities with Fabius, but also a lot of differences. His knowledge of the gene seed and space marine autonomy extends even further than Fabius's, as evident by Cawl's ability to improve upon the Emperor's works and create two entirely new gene seed that were used as the basis for the upgrade to the Primaris Marines. Even Fabius was impressed by the Primaris, that his rival could build upon the Emperor's works and not just edit or replicate it. To be fair to Fabius, Cawl did have access to some of the Emperor's blueprints, so it wasn't like he was working from complete scratch. Whilst Fabius took a vast interest in Eldar tech and used that to further his own knowledge, Cawl took an interest in Necron tech, seeking to reverse engineer Necron pylons in order to combat the warp, and he is the first human to be able to hack Necron tech and control the basics of it. This contrast is because Cawl is a cold bean of logic and science. His inventions and creations are grounded in reality, whereas Fabius will use the warp as a tool to spruce up his innovations, which is why he chose to learn about the Eldar technology, as that also uses the warp to spruce up their tech. Cawl's absorption of multiple consciousnesses that all come with their own memories and knowledge, as well as the fact that he is constantly uploading information into his brain, means he has been driven close to a mental breakdown on numerous occasions. To combat this, every few thousand years, Cawl will download his brain's info, then wipe his knowledge and memory, save a few key elements. He then has to relearn shit. It's said that the amount of deleted knowledge from Cawl rivals the collected knowledge of the Mechanicus, at least in specific areas. He has improved Imperial grav tech, restored lost technology, and basically spits on the draconian anti-invention attitude that the modern day Mechanicus holds to this day. Now many people argue that Cawl is the greater genius as he innovates and invents, whilst Fabius just replicates and edits, but both have achieved things that the other could not. Cawl would be incapable of creating a perfect Primarch clone. Fabius would be incapable of creating new gene seed or hacking Necron tech. Cawl wouldn't be able to work with Eldar tech. They have also achieved a lot for their respective factions. Fabius saved evil Fulgrim from death when he got shot in the eye. Half the traitor legions are still trudging along purely because of Fabius's efforts in cloning gene seed and keeping their numbers up. On the flip side, Cawl created the Primaris and was instrumental in the resurrection of Guilliman. He also helped in the creation of Guilliman's Armor of Fate, which could arguably be the most advanced battle plate of armor ever created. Without Cawl's intervention with the Primaris and Guilliman, the Imperium would have fallen during the opening of the Great Rift. However, with his genius, the Imperium wasn't able to just survive the galactic apocalypse, but go on the offensive. You could easily argue that they are equally valuable to their respective factions. Cawl as a hard carry in the recent setting, whilst Fabius has been drip feeding the traitor legions to keep them alive over 10,000 years as a side hobby while he goes and pursues his own agenda. Looking at all this, it's really hard to decide a clear winner, so let's dig a little deeper. What is the ultimate ambition of both men? Well, right now, other than replacing humanity with his own design, Fabius is currently attempting to clone the Emperor of Mankind himself. He admires the Emperor as a scientist and believes that if he could clone him under his own specifications and guide, this clone would end up being the perfect master of mankind. Cawl, on the other hand, wishes to bring the Mechanicus back to what it was, a group of scientists who are unafraid to innovate or invent, geniuses who wouldn't just rely on STCs for advancement, but would ascend beyond even that. During the Great Crusade, the Mechanicus, called the Mechanicum at the time, were amazing. Coriel Zeth built a self-sufficient city using a revived volcano as the fuel source. She had also helped invent a method of data transfer and communication which was better, faster and safer than what was currently used. It was based on light. She also almost figured out how to tap into the knowledge of the universe and learn everything there ever was. The Mechanicus of the current era wouldn't even dream of attempting such things. Belisarius Cawl is the exception, a living relic of what the Mechanicus was and what it could be again if it stopped being a bunch of pussies. Whilst Fabius's ambition might seem more grand, it's also quite unrealistic. The dude can't even reliably clone Primarchs when he has direct access to their DNA. An attempt to clone the Emperor probably wouldn't go down well. Cawl, on the other hand, has been making waves and paving the path for other more progressive tech priests to lift the Imperium out of stagnation and push it once again towards a golden age. At the end of the day, people will have different opinions on which genius is greater. Both have achieved amazing things that the other is incapable of. Both have hard carried their factions to a decent degree, and both are incredibly awesome and nuanced characters. The day that they have a showdown is the day that my pants become eternally cummy. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then buy the Majorkill Christmas merch. Funny hats, desk pads, dice, protein shakers, and more. Stock is limited. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more genius content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.